G'day everyone, Prep Aussie here. I hope you're all well in whatever part of the world you're watching this video. Today is Tuesday the 4th of September 2018 and the time here is 10:25 Australian Eastern Standard Time. Well folks, as you can see I've got the old flannel on. That's because it's so bloody beautiful here in southeast Queensland that it's freezing. Bloody cold as anything. I even got the Ugg boots on. We've gone from, a high of nearly 30 down to 11 in one day. So look, the weather's all over the show now. You can't even judge it. It's that bad. Wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about finance and then a little bit about immigration and what's happening in Europe. Now, yesterday, Argentina's economy started to fall apart. So I don't know if you're aware of that. So you've got Turkey going like that, and then you've got Argentina going, and closely following it is Brazil. All three of them are now tanking pretty badly, very badly. It wasn't that long ago, if you remember, that Brazil borrowed $1 gazillion to do the Olympics. And God knows if they're ever going to pay it back. They're so broke they can't even keep the places open that they built. That's how ridiculous this is. But I want to show you something in trading economics. Okay, this is the front page of trading economics. Now you'll note a couple of things here. Look where it says calendar and look at the top article there. Australia RBA interest rates decision. Well, we all know what that's going to be. And there has been no change at all with Australia's monetary policy. This is now stagnated for 2 whole years. But if you remember, just on Friday, Westpac and a few others put their interest rates up. So if you're a mushroom stroke uninterested lefty moron, this will all be shocking to you. As a person who's awake, it should not be an issue for you because you quite rightly, you should be saying, well, it's a wonder interest rates aren't 10%. And that's where they're going, by the way. 10%, probably higher. Now, I just want to read something here to you that smacks in the face of everything that they're writing in the papers. Just let me read this to you. The Reserve Bank of Australia, this is up the top here, left the cash rate unchanged at a record low of 1.5% for 2 years running at its August meeting. It is the longest policy pause in the central bank's modern history. Now, this is the bit that gets me. Listen to this. Amid sluggishness in inflation and wages, interest rate in Australia averaged 4.53% from 1990 until 2018. Now, for you are too young to remember this, I do, reaching an all-time high of 17.5% in January of 1990 and a record low of 1.5% in August 2016. Now, for any of you that are a little bit younger, that 1990 was so bad that people just walked out of their houses and left everything in them. Just went, enough. See ya. Went in, didn't even bother going and give them the keys back, left all the furniture, the lot in there. And I actually know some people that did it. I was lucky enough not to own a home at the time for various reasons, because I was young, footloose and fancy free. I think I was about 28 at the time, something like that. And I had mates of mine who were trying to do 3 jobs, washing dishes, etc., to keep things going. Even their kids had to go and get jobs to try and keep the mortgage being paid. That's how ridiculous it was. Some of them kept them, some of them didn't. It all depended on the personality of the person, to be honest with you. Some people would stick right through it. Other people would just go, had enough. See you later. Why do this for the next couple of years when after 7 years I can get another loan anyway? And that's exactly what happened. And that's why the housing market in Australia took so long. And that's why the rental market in Australia has always been higher than the housing market for average Australians. Average Australians don't buy houses. They rent. This might shock a lot of people in America, etc. We actually don't buy houses here, we rent because it's cheaper in the long run. If that doesn't make sense, then what I just said about 1990 is still fresh in a lot of people's minds, even though it's a long time ago. They're not prepared to put themselves through that again. They'd rather live in a caravan park than live in a house, to be honest. Right, now I'm going to show you something else on that page. And the devil's always in the detail, isn't it? Household debt in Australia has become so high that it's one of the highest in the world, by the way. Now, just let me find this, hang on. Okay, folks, I'll read this bit to you and see if this makes sense to you guys. The outlook for the labour market remains positive. The vacancy rate is high, and other forward-looking indicators continue to point to solid growth in employment. Employment growth continues to be faster than growth in the working age population. A further gradual decline in the unemployment rate is expected over the next couple of years to around 5%. Wages growth remains low. This is likely to continue for a while yet, although the improvement in the economy should see some lift in wages growth over time. Consistent with this, the rate of wages growth appears to have troughed, and there are increased reports of skill shortages in some areas. Well, if you understand that gobbledygook, they're kind of hedging their bets as to what's going to happen. Now, the ironic thing is if wages growth takes off and the actual rate of employment comes down, inflation goes up, which means that interest rates are going to have to go up, which means the price of everything goes up. I read a statistic yesterday, day before. There has not been wages growth in Australia since before the GFC. None. Hasn't been any real wages growth since before 2008. That's why everyone's so flat broke. But if you go outside shopping, you know as well as I do that the price of meat's going up, veggies is going up, everything's going up. But your wages aren't matching it. I said there was one other thing I wanted to show you here. And it's actually pretty important. Let's go back to the main page. I'm doing this so you guys can see what I do. Okay, go to the bottom one here, news. And let's go down here to Argentine peso falls again. Well, if you were paying attention this morning in the news around the world, the Prime Minister of Argentina has come out, well, president or whatever the hell he is, and said, we can't do this anymore. We now need to start living within our means. And they're starting to cut, and I mean massively cut, like Venezuela, a lot of goods and services. So you have this country, very rich, farming, etc., and it's broke. Dead flat broke. Now the interesting thing is just up the road a bit, on the right-hand side, left or right, yeah, same side, Brazil is actually tanking as well. Now, thing to remember here is that Brazil is a mirror image, more or less, of the Australian way of life. Sun, sea, sand, sex, drugs, whatever it is. Although they've got a bigger problem than us. But they export iron ore as well, remember? But their economy is tanking severely. Like it's actually going down to the gurgler. So you've got Turkey, Argentina, Brazil now starting to suffer from the rise in the American dollar and the strength of the American dollar. So pay attention to what's going on, folks. It's that important. Now, I just wanted to say something briefly about immigration. Yesterday, the ABC did an interview with Steve Bannon. If you haven't watched this interview, you should watch it. It's really, really good. And the interesting thing was that the interviewer, I can't remember her name, she's a pain in the ass anyway, she's a leftist gorilla, is that she's peppering him with, like, oh, racist this, and, and he's just like, forget that, love. This is a new reality. And unless you're prepared to face the reality, then your life is going to be a shitload harder than you thought it was. That's basically the remit. And she was quite shocked when he said that there's every chance that America's going to erupt into war. She was like, oh my God, can't be that bad, can it? Like just typical lefty crap. She's an idiot. She is an absolute idiot. I can't remember her name. She's the most one-sided, dogmatic bloody interviewer I've ever seen in my life, and she shouldn't be on the ABC, to be honest. There's that one. Now I'm going to show you something else. This is really interesting. Now, this gentleman here, I don't know if you guys have heard of him or not, Dr. Steve Turley. I watch a lot of his stuff, and he's a very, very intelligent human being, and is a conservative politician in the norm. Not a politician, but he's I can't remember what his degree is. But look, there is no one better on YouTube to listen to as to defining what's going on with conservatism, etc., and leftists, and the alt-right, the alt-left, etc. This man is actually extremely intelligent and knows exactly what he's talking about, and puts out 2 of these shows each day. And I watch each of them, and he is extremely important to what's going on, because he doesn't use a lot of rhetoric in what he's saying, and tries to temper his enthusiasm with well-worded, well-rounded arguments. And what he's saying there, and look, this is really, really important to us here in Australia, and you might not think so, but in Sweden on the weekend there's going to be a massive election, and the Alternative for Sweden party is actually going to win. If they don't, they're going to come a high second. Now, a couple of years ago they were banned, and now they're going to take parliament. Now, why is that interesting? Well, here's the thing, and even us as right-wing people, I guess, and ideals and ideologies and nationalism, etc., need to understand that very soon one of these European countries, Sweden, Belgium, Germany, whomever it is literally going to turn around, or Austria, did I say Austria? Because Austria has actually made some pretty strong things lately, laws, because the Alternative Party for Austria got in, and they've thrown people out and knocked down mosques and all this sort of stuff. So, look, it's not a race to the gutter, and people need to understand this. This is a race to save countries. Now, what we need to be focused on and keep an eye on is one of these countries very soon is going to say, you're off. They're going to put a red card up, and they're going to say, sorry, we tried this, It didn't work, like Israel's doing to the Somalis. It didn't work. Piss off. And there's $5,000 each to get back on the plane, and you can go back to the miserable shithole that you called a home that you destroyed and came here and tried to destroy our home with your same rhetoric and your same looseness and, you know, your criminality, etc. And people are starting to understand that the Muslim religion is an ideology. It's not a religion, it's an ideology. And it's a bad ideology at that. And that's not to say that the Catholic... Let me say this quite frankly. The Catholic religion is not one tier better, or, you know, I think they're all as low as each other. So I have no problem saying that about the Catholic religion and most of the other religions. You know, look what the Buddhists are doing to the Muslims in Myanmar. They're killing them. You know, so look, nationalism has two fronts. It has a Nazism type front, but it also has people like us who are just saying, well, enough's enough, guys. You know, you haven't listened to us. We are the white majority, and you will now listen to us. Now, the party in Sweden that's going to win this weekend's election is running on the promise that they are going to literally deport 500,000 people straight away. Regardless of whether they want to go or not, they're going. 500,000 people. See ya. Go back to wherever it is you came from. Now, you would think, first they're going to close their borders. They're going to completely close all their borders to all immigration. And then the second thing they're going to do is deport 500,000. Now, being that Sweden is where it is, you would probably say that there's a good chance that because it's in the Eurozone, a lot of those people get on a boat, a train, a car, whatever, and just fly down to France. Literally. Whether they get on a plane, fly there, get in a car to go down there, whatever. There will be a mass exodus out of one of these countries very soon. But then in part lies the big problem. Because that's going to cause major problems within countries. And major countries, can you imagine being in France and all of a sudden 500,000 people decide, well, if Sweden's kicking me out and I've got a passport, a Euro passport, I'm going to France. This is where this is all going to cave in, big time. And I kind of think the Soros-backed NGOs, etc., know this. And they're not stupid, and they're actually going to force this issue. Hungary did it. Czechoslovakia's done it. Poland's doing it. You know, they literally said, get out. We don't want you. Get out. You're a pain in the ass, and you have you have nothing that you can offer this country. And as I said yesterday, I got a bit of flack yesterday for saying Beirut used to be the same. Well, look, you need to actually, the people that wrote to me yesterday in comments and said, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, Beirut. But, well, can I just ask you, go back and look at what actually happened. Beirut was a Christian country. And they let all the Muslims in, and the Muslims turned on them once they knew that they had the numbers. They were literally pulling cars up on the freeway and shooting whole families. Eradicating Christians. First they'd get in their little enclave, then they'd push all the Christians out, and then even if Muslims and Christians were living next door to each other, everything was fine, used to go to Christmas parties together, etc. Then they turned the Muslims onto the Christians. That's how shit that religion is. So look, like I said, though, I've got no stick with any of the religions. I can't stand any of them. So the big question is, who's going to be the first to crack? And then where are the people going to go? Because they're not going to get on planes to go back to Saudi Arabia or go back to, Saudi Arabia, Syria, Iran, Iraq. So where are they going to go? Well, can you believe that people like here in Australia, countries like here in Australia are going to go, oh, we'll take 10,000. We'll take 50,000. That's what they're banking on. So be prepared, and you better get prepared now, because it's going to happen. Because it's going to turn into such a shit fight that the lefties are going to pull out the violin strings and go, oh, this is playing for you. This is the saddest song in the whole world. We've got to get them here and hug trees in Tasmania with us. And that's where it's all going to go pear-shaped. And that's why we do need another party here in Australia to start expressing our views like has happened in Germany, Sweden, and stare down these lefty liberals, radicals, because they are actually worse than anybody else. And they are a minority. They are the minority. Simple as that. All right, time for the prayers. Wow, can you believe the verse of the day? This is what the Lord says, your Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel. I am the Lord your God, who teaches you what is best for you, who directs you in the way you should go. Let me read that again. This is what the Lord says, your Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel. I am the Lord your God, who teaches you what is best for you, who directs you in the way you should go. Wow. And as always, folks, we'll finish with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power and the glory, for ever and ever. Amen. All right, folks, I've said enough. Have a good one. Prep out.